The selection hall was nothing like the holographic simulations promised. In the drills, candidates appeared confident, their every microexpression polished, every movement precise. Here in the real chamber, it was a different story. The harsh lights exposed anxiety, hesitation, and fatigue. Commander Varric strode down the central aisle, his metallic boots echoing on the polished steel floor. The council of evaluators followed him, their attention focused on the holographic readouts hovering above each candidate. He had been chosen to select the leader for the next interstellar expedition, a mission to colonize Gliese 581G, a planet rumored to harbor life-supporting conditions. The mission was dangerous. Mortality predictions hovered at nearly 50% for the first decade. The fate of thousands, perhaps millions of colonists, rested on his judgment. Varric paused in front of a line of women. His eyes swept past the imposing engineers, the genetically enhanced soldiers, the brilliant strategists, until he stopped at the last candidate. Her name was Kira. She stood at the far end, her frame slight, her uniform slightly wrinkled as if she hadn't cared to perfect her posture. Her hair was dark, falling in loose waves over her shoulders, her eyes quiet, unreadable. The holographic assessments above her head blinked red.
Weak.
Inexperienced. High risk. Varric frowned. Every candidate had undergone years of training, simulations, and psychological conditioning. He expected competence, confidence at the very least. This woman seemed to have none. Yet something in her stillness drew him in. Not charm, not intelligence, just presence. Without fully understanding why, he selected her. A murmur rippled through the chamber. "The weakest candidate?" one evaluator whispered. "Are you certain, Commander?" Varric didn't answer.
He didn't need to.
In that moment, the die was cast. Kira was marked for leadership, and the selection hall, with all its lights and readouts, seemed to shrink around her. The voyage begins. The starship Eos Vanguard left orbit 3 days later. Its hull gleamed in the sunlight of the dying Sol System star, engines humming with barely contained power. On board were hundreds of colonists, engineers, biologists, soldiers, families, all relying on Kira's decisions. The first weeks were uneventful. Kira listened more than she spoke, asking questions that others had dismissed. She studied mission logs, environmental reports, and the minutiae of life support systems. The crew began to notice a pattern. The weak candidate, chosen for apparent incompetence, had a habit of observing problems others missed. Minor discrepancies in power output, subtle behavioral patterns among colonists, shifts in microgravity equilibrium. Kira caught them all. One night, during a routine inspection of the hydroponic bay, Lieutenant Ramos, one of the more skeptical officers, confronted her. "You're thorough," he said, uncertain if it was a compliment. "But why?" "We're trained for this. You're supposed to be vulnerable." Kira smiled faintly, her dark eyes glinting. "The strongest leaders don't pretend to be invincible," she said. "They see everything, even what people don't show." Ramos hesitated, then nodded. There was something about her calm certainty that demanded respect. The first crisis. 2 months into the journey, the Eos Vanguard encountered a spatial anomaly, a rift in the fabric of space-time. Instruments registered it as harmless at first, but the anomaly expanded rapidly, threatening to engulf the ship. Panic spread through the crew. Sensors went haywire. Alarms blared, and every officer's training was tested to the limit. Varric barked orders. "Shields at maximum. Divert auxiliary power." Kira remained still, her gaze scanning the holographic readouts. Then she spoke. "Divert primary energy to the temporal stabilizers. Minor hull breach is preferable to overloading the engines." The command sounded insane. The standard protocols would have rerouted energy differently, possibly sacrificing the entire propulsion matrix. Yet when the crew followed her orders, the anomaly stabilized. The rift contracted, and the Eos Vanguard sailed through unscathed. For the first time, the Council recognized that Varric had not merely made a mistake in choosing her, he had inadvertently placed them in the hands of someone extraordinary. The revelation. Weeks later, after the anomaly, Kira requested a private audience with Varric. They met in the observation deck, staring at the swirling nebulae outside. "Why me?" Varric asked bluntly. "I passed over the strategists, the soldiers, the ones with training. Why choose a woman who, by every measure, was weak?" Kira's expression was unreadable. "Because strength isn't what you think it is," she said. "I know how the mind bends under pressure, how people fail when they're afraid. I see patterns, Commander. Weakness on paper doesn't mean weakness in practice." Varric studied her, finally understanding the truth he had ignored. Strength wasn't always visible. It wasn't loud or boastful. Sometimes it was silent, and sometimes it was deadly. Kira paused. "I've been trained for something the records don't show. Observation, adaptation, leadership under circumstances no one else can survive. You didn't know it because you were looking for a queen in the wrong place." Varric swallowed. He had unknowingly selected a queen, not for her apparent power, but because she had the vision to rule chaos itself. The hidden threat. Gliese 581G loomed in the viewport weeks later. Its pale blue oceans and green continents promised life, but sensors soon detected something unexpected. Structures, artificial in origin, buried beneath the surface. Recon drones revealed sprawling ruins, evidence of an extinct civilization, but also dangerous energy readings, residual technology capable of catastrophic destruction if mishandled. The colonists argued over whether to land. Some wanted to establish a foothold immediately. Others insisted on caution. Panic, debates, and human ego threatened to fracture the mission. Kira did something remarkable. She did not command. She guided. Instead of forcing her authority, she orchestrated simulations, modeled every potential outcome, and allowed the crew to test every possibility virtually. She asked questions no one had considered. What would happen if the ruins respond to human presence? Which systems are capable of surviving a catastrophic release? What signals might provoke an unknown defense mechanism? By the time she presented a recommendation, every officer, every colonist, knew it was not just the safest course, but the inevitable one. They trusted her, not because she was chosen, but because she had earned it. The Queen emerges. Landing on Gliese 581G was only the beginning. Within weeks, Kira organized the colony with unprecedented efficiency. She implemented resource rotations, environmental safeguards, and energy distribution grids that even engineers admitted were revolutionary. Yet, more astonishingly, she taught the colonists to trust her not blindly, but through understanding. She explained every decision, every contingency, and allowed them to participate. A week into the settlement, an unexpected storm, a rare atmospheric disturbance, threatened to destroy the primary habitat dome. Systems faltered. Panic erupted. Kira stood in the command center, calm as ever. She issued commands that others had not even considered. Seal the secondary modules. Use the pressure gradient to stabilize the main dome. Prepare the drones to reinforce structural weaknesses in 2-minute intervals. The storm hit. Winds tore at the settlement. Debris flew. Systems groaned. Yet the habitat endured. When the storm passed, the colonists realized something extraordinary. They had survived not because of technology alone, but because of her. Varric, standing beside her, whispered, I didn't see it. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. Kira smiled faintly. Weakness is often the camouflage of the wise. The legacy years passed. Gliese 581G transformed under Kira's guidance into a thriving colony. She became more than a leader. She became a symbol, a queen who had emerged from the shadows of expectation. Varric often reflected on the irony. In seeking the strongest, the most obvious candidate, he had overlooked the one person capable of true leadership. In choosing the weakest, he had unknowingly placed the colony in the hands of a queen. Kira herself never claimed glory. She taught others, cultivated minds, and encouraged future leaders to see beyond appearances. Strength, she demonstrated, was not about force or brilliance alone. It was about vision, adaptability, and the courage to act when chaos threatened all. The day the first Interstellar Conference was held on Gliese 581G, delegates from distant colonies came to see the woman who had rewritten the rules of leadership. They expected someone extraordinary. They found someone simple, quiet, and unassuming. And yet, in her calm eyes, they saw something that no data report could measure: the unmistakable presence of a queen. Varric looked at her, finally understanding the truth of the story. He had not selected a weak woman. He had selected a queen. And the universe, as always, had a way of rewarding those who understood the difference.